In the span of 24 hours, or about the same time of that Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin was acting governor, the state of Idaho was thrown into a state of political and pandemic confusion. A situation never before seen in the Gem State unfolded yesterday. Sitting in for the out-of-state Governor Little, Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin issued executive order banning mask mandates at state entities in Idaho. And that includes places like public schools. McGeachin was acting governor at this time, and Governor Little was out of the state attending a Republican governor's conference in Nashville. As the statute goes, according to the Constitution, if the governor is out of the state, well, then the lieutenant governor steps in. And 24 hours later, well, Little has undone that order. All of this is the backdrop for the race for Idaho governor. Last week, McGeachin announcing her candidacy for the 2022 race. Little is expected to do the same before next year's deadline. Joe Paris has details on those developments that we saw today from both Little and McGeachin.
Idaho Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin started a 24-hour domino effect of unique political circumstances for the state of Idaho. While Governor Brad Little was away on business, Lieutenant Governor McGeachin stepped in to serve as governor, which is typical legal procedure. But unlike the last several times she filled in, this time McGeachin quickly took advantage of the circumstance to issue this executive order, prohibiting the state and its political subdivisions, including public schools, from imposing mask mandates in Idaho. Critics of the executive order, including Governor Little's office, say it was clearly a political play in her pursuit to be Idaho's next governor. The executive order itself also caused confusion for several entities across Idaho on how exactly it affected mask policies and guidance in places like public schools. Concerns with Lieutenant Governor McGeachin's order essentially became moot early Friday when Governor Brad Little, who returned to Idaho late Thursday, issued his own executive order undoing McGeachin's action. In an extended statement, Little said, "The executive order unilaterally and unlawfully takes away authorities given to the state's mayors, local school board trustees, and others. The governor's goal was to return power to the local control." Now, Governor Little added, "The action that took place while I was gone this week is not gubernatorial. The action that took place was an irresponsible, self-serving political stunt." The governor went on to say, "The executive order presents some pretty alarming unintended consequences," and he finishes saying, "The executive order also appears to conflict with other laws on the books." Now, Little also appeared to give advice to McGeachin, saying, quote, "This is why you do your homework, Lieutenant Governor." The governor's office tells me they gave the lieutenant governor a heads up about their action shortly before it was announced Friday. We reached out to McGeachin for comments on the situation. She did not directly respond to our questions. She did, however, take to social media with her thoughts. She wrote, quote, "Today, Governor Little chose to revoke your personal freedom by rescinding my order and imposing mask mandates on thousands of Idaho children." She continued to say, quote, "I understand that protecting individual liberty means fighting against tyranny at all levels of government, federal, state, and local. It is your God-given right to make your own health decisions, and no state, city, or school district ever has the authority to violate your unalienable rights." Governor Little points out in his statement, though, that Idaho has never had a mask mandate and that he's actually opposed to mask mandates as a whole. Little explains, though, that through his actions during the pandemic, he, quote, "didn't undermine separately elected officials who, under Idaho law, are given authorities to take measures that they believe will protect the health and safety of the people they serve." McGeachin wasted no time capitalizing on her executive order. On Thursday, she sent out a campaign email promoting her run for governor, saying, quote, "I firmly believe that you have the right to make your own decisions about masks, vaccines, and how to raise your children. You don't need the government to tell you what to do," she wrote, before asking for campaign donations. The email appears to confirm speculation that the McGeachin executive order is a campaign ploy. Governor Little responded to that theory, saying, quote, "I do not like petty politics. I do not like political stunts over the rule of law. However, the consequences of the lieutenant governor's flimsy executive order require me to clean up a mess with my own executive order today."
Okay, Joe, I know that all of us in the newsroom have reached out to Lieutenant Governor McGeachin today and got no response, but yet that hasn't stopped her from being very vocal on social media today. However, it appears she wasn't so, I guess, forthcoming with the governor when this executive order was issued yesterday. Is that correct?
Yeah, the governor's office tells us that they found out about the executive order like many of us did through separate channels. Lieutenant Governor's office did not reach out to Governor Little's office before putting out the executive order as he was on the East Coast for the Republican Governors Conference. As you heard in the story, though, Brian, Governor Little did reach out to the Lieutenant Governor's office a short time before he put out his executive order this morning as a common courtesy.
This has to add a whole other level of animosity between these two offices. They have to work together for at least another year or so, being the number one and number two in the state. They're campaigning against each other, and now one of them is kind of, well, for lack of a better term, using the words they use, undermining the other. This can't be a good, healthy relationship.
Yeah, and talking to my sources in the State House and in the Idaho politics world, Brian, there is significant concern from some about how the situation will play out. On a call earlier today, the governor's office essentially telling members of the media that they are going to continue to try and work with the lieutenant governor's office and keep lines of communication open. But Brian, as you alluded to, we still have essentially a year until the Republican primary in May of 2022, and a lot could happen between now and then. There's a question asked of the governor's staff earlier today about if this type of action from the lieutenant governor may lead to them maybe not traveling out of state for the next year. Now, we didn't get a clear answer to that. And of course, you know, the governor has lots of things to do here in Idaho, and that sometimes involves leaving the state. So in terms of this happening again, Brian, and I know there's been questions about that, it is wait and see. The lieutenant governor at the end of the day does assume the role of governor if he does leave the state.
And maybe it's worth revisiting that statute on the books. Like, why is it even possible that the lieutenant governor can assume the duties of the governor just because he leaves the state? Doesn't happen when the president leaves the country, right? We'll see what happens, though. Again, that's a legislative issue.
Yeah, that's correct.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you're correct, Brian, in saying that, and I know that there's already been conversations at the State House among some lawmakers possibly looking at a constitutional amendment to maybe not necessarily rewrite the entire Constitution, but take a look at sections like that that could tailor things into the modern age. Brian, as we know, we all have smartphones and social media to communicate now, and when the Constitution was written, communication styles were a little bit different.
And changing the Constitution, something they've already considered, as we saw with this last legislative session and several of them as well. But thank you very much, Joe. All right.